there are certain things that I've had to accept. I think, because I lost my father at age 14 and I went into what I call my angry blind phase. And
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
Welcome to Tulsa Talks. We have Russell Roland with us today. He was born blind, and he is a social activist with a success story and an impactful life. Russell, welcome to the podcast.
thank you, sir.
So tell us what your life has been different from an early age of being completely blind, because I was born legally blind, but I still had fuzzy vision. So did not experience what you've experienced, nor have I ever had a deep conversation with somebody that has
Well,
experienced
I
your
think
life.
that I think that my life's been kind of different in that my parents and family have had to make some hard decisions and set some definites. The four definites that my mother had for me were: I was going to go to school, I was going to go to college, I was going to get a job, and I was going to not live off the government, the SSI, checks and whatnot. So, getting an education meant that, growing up in Locust Grove, we had to drive every day from Locust Grove to Muskogee, Oklahoma, to go to the school for the blind. And I started going there when I was 18 months old. They did that back then.
Which you told me that drive is about 45 minutes from your memory.
I think so.
That's a long way. That's an hour and a half every day dedicated just to transportation, let alone the
Hmm.
school time. Plus, your mom drove you there.
Hmm.
So what did she do during the day?
My mother was an accountant. I'm
Okay.
sorry, financial analyst
Okay.
throughout her life.
Okay. And so she stayed there in Muskogee area where you
No,
the
she
school was?
worked. She worked in Tulsa mostly for different places.
I can't imagine that amount of driving, that amount of dedication year after year after year after year that your mom had
Hmm.
of loving you enough to be able to support you that way.
Well, growing up, I mean, she was the breadwinner, and my dad actually drove me to school. So he was
Oh,
a
okay.
stay-at-home dad.
Okay. Okay. That's nice. That's nice. Um, and then when you got into graduating high school and going into college, what was that like?
Um, I felt ready. Part of me was ready for it, but part of me wasn't. I did go to a college prep course for the blind, but going to NSU, I was only the second blind person to go there, and the first one didn't make the best of impressions. And whenever I came onto the campus, my mother uh, walked me. We went there one Saturday, and I think we spent 3 hours walking that campus. And I had a device back then called the Trekker Breeze. It was a GPS system for the blind, and you could landmark anything, and it would give you directions on how to get there and tell you like whether you were approaching certain landmarks. So we went through and landmarked, my dorm and different classes and sidewalks and stuff like that. And but NSU's reception wasn't very very. They weren't very happy to have a blind person there. They were like, well, we're only going to give you what the law says we have to give you, and you're not getting a guide from class to class to class, and we don't think you're going to make it here anyway. The last blind person barely made it through here. And, on the outside, I was polite, ma'am, I'm not asking for any special treatment here. I'm just asking for the tools to be successful. But inside, I'm like, okay, if you want to come at me like that, let's go to war. If you want war, we can go to war.
So how was your college experience after you got a good start? Did people see you differently than what they thought you were originally?
I think what I guess was frustrating is being seen as like an inspiration, like, wow, you're blind and you're doing this. And I'm just doing what I need to do to be successful. I think one of the things that I would want to be seen as is human. I have my own struggles like everybody else does. I just happen to be blind.
Okay.
I mean, I think one of the most disappointing things that happened to me whenever I was in college was I was studying Spanish. My goal was to be a Spanish education teacher, and I was getting into my upper level courses, and I went to the university and I said, "Hey, listen, is there any way you guys can get me these books in Braille? I need to be able to see this stuff." And they're like, "Nope, we're not gonna invest in my kind of in that. We're not gonna invest our money that way." And I naively thought, hey, if I show these people, I've never failed any classes. I'm not asking for any special treatment.
Just
Uh,
want to be equipped to win.
yeah. And but once I got into the counseling field and started taking counseling classes, that was completely different. I had everything I needed there.
Okay. So what you're saying is you found ample opportunity and you felt fully equipped to go into what you currently do.
Correct.
And you had a roadblock that didn't allow you to do what you thought you wanted to
Right.
start.
Hmm.
With that, what do you think about your life pattern or your life path? Because that was kind of strongly suggested that you might not need to do or be a Spanish teacher, but you might need to be a counselor instead.
I, I
Since
had
you were shifted in that direction.
I had never thought about it, but I think my college experience caused me to have a hard time accepting my blindness because I had been told coming up at the School for the Blind, it's not if you're going to be discriminated against, it's when it's going to happen. But I did not expect the amount of discrimination that I got, whether it was, constantly having that worry of getting a book that you need to be successful or, you know, um, uh, is a professor gonna give you their material in a form that you can use.
Mm-hmm. 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 But when you went into the counseling, that kind of developed differently and you felt equipped. So you achieved that milestone of getting what degree?
I have a degree, a master's in counseling, and I have a minor in Spanish.
You have a master's degree
Yes, sir. I sure
in
do.
counseling.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's cool. What how do you use that currently?
I work as an addictions counselor for Grand Addiction Recovery Center.
Okay. And what does your daily deal look like?
So I get up at 4 and I get ready and I get on a bus and I make it to Grand probably around, I'm going to guess 6, maybe 6:15. I go up to one of our tech stations. I have our techs print me off my sign-in sheets for the day. I go over my client list. Then I go to my office. I look at my schedule. I probably spend from 8 to 9, just going over my group notes, making sure I got everything ready for my groups. That could be, okay, we're going to use these songs in group today as a quote unquote visual illustration, or we're going to use this video. We're going to talk about this. Then at 9 o'clock, I see my first client. Then at 10:30, I have group. Then I have lunch. And then I see clients from 1 to 3 on Monday, or from 2 to 5 on Mondays. And then on Tuesdays, I'll see a client, at 9 and then 2. And then we have group from 3:30 to 5.
Okay, so it varies day to day of exactly what you do, but you help people individually and in group, and you help people with addiction recovery.
Right.
And what is your process of helping them with that?
Well, I use, I talk about different topics, but I also use stories from my own life, my own struggles, and I also use music to relate to my clients.
Okay. Something that hit me earlier is in this conversation is you don't want people to be inspired by you as far as, hey, this is a blind guy that's accomplishing something that it's given me a hard time to do myself and I get to see. There are different people in our lives that want to feel pitied. They want to feel like they're an inspiration because they've overcome something but you want to be looked at as a regular human being with a life struggle that's just different than somebody else's.
Yeah, and it's not me that's been successful. It's my choices that have made me successful.
Yeah. And those people around you that have helped you
Yeah.
navigate
hmm
this. You said your mom, full-time worker, your
Well,
dad.
and my mom had to make some hard choices. My dad struggled with addiction, and so my mom was the primary breadwinner, and she did shelter me. So my mom helps me iron my clothes and cooks for me and cleans for me. But I that doesn't mean that I can't. I may only be able to use a microwave, a crock pot, and an air fryer, but I can be successful. But and I do need help with certain things, but I'm still successful.
Yeah. You didn't lay down and let life take you. You stood up and take life.
Right.
And you're impacting people's lives by, even if you don't want to be an inspiration,
Well,
by
I
being an
guess
inspiration.
the phrase that I try to get clients not to use is, "If he can do it, I should be." Because I always tell my clients, hey, your journey through life and through sobriety is unique. You've got that one struggle that makes your journey unique.
Yeah. What do you find people dealing with that you counsel, like in a root cause?
I would say they're dealing with things from their past, whether that be past trauma or mistakes that they made that have kept them from living the life they want to live.
So you help people identify that,
Yeah, and
and
change their way of thinking on it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Stop being poor, pitiful me, and start living life with a good foundation because of the experiences they've had that can equip them instead
Mhm.
of crippling them. And you're leading by example. How impactful is that? Have you seen people live their life differently after you've helped them?
Well, I've got a couple of people that have been my former clients that are now coworkers.
I'd say that's pretty impactful. So they're helping you multiply the effort after you've helped them.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way.
What other way is there? I mean, you've equipped these people to live a different life, and they're helping you equip other people to live a different life. Is that
Well,
pretty close?
I just see myself as one small part in the wheel. I wasn't the sole reason.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, none of us are. And that's why we need community. You need people surrounding you to accomplish what you've accomplished in your life. And we all need to realize that we can help people by being one of the people that surround them to help them in their lives. What are some foundational questions that you ask people?
The three main questions that I ask are that I start out each session with is, tell me how your addiction got started. What gave you the courage to come to treatment, and how can I help you as your therapist? And I think that's one of the things that I really want clients to understand is the courage that it takes for them to come to treatment. Because when they come in our facility, they choose to live with somebody on a temporary basis that they may or may not get along with, and they choose to work with a counselor that they may or may not jive with to better their lives.
Yeah. How broad of a spectrum have you experienced with that first question of what caused this to start?
I mean, it's gone from past trauma to I just tried it one day and got hooked.
Okay. And what is the realization for people that are successful to um, what caused them to get hooked?
I mean, I think the realization is you got to change everything. Some changes are harder to make than others, but I think the other realization is just because you get knocked down by life and by addiction doesn't mean you can't pull yourself back up. Because a lot of our clients come in and they talk about the number of times they've been to rehab, and I'm quick to flip it around and say, hey, you might have been to rehab 15 times, but that just means 15 times you got to the point where you were like, I got to do something different, and I'm going to do it. You chose to get help when it was offered.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you help them understand that this time might be different?
I let them come to that conclusion. You know,
Yeah. How do you help them get to that? Do you help them at all to get to that conclusion?
I help them by saying, you had the courage to come here. What can I do to help you?
Mm-hmm.
So that you walk out of here with the confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Counseling, is it more of telling somebody, or is it more of asking them to get the answer for themselves?
I think as the counselor, we're not the expert. We just guide the client so that they can discover the answers on their own.
Yeah, I've heard that people retain 15% of what someone tells them and 85% of the questions that they ask for themselves. So if I tell you something, according to that rule or guideline, if I tell you something, you're probably going to remember it 15% of the time. But if I ask you a provocative question that you answer within yourself, you're likely to remember that answer that you received from yourself 85% of the time. So I guess that's sort of why you ask the questions and help them with self discovery
Mhm.
so that they can attach their self to their answer instead of fight somebody else's answer that they've been given.
Mhm.
And what percentage of the people do you find that has come through your system, your counseling? Is it a high percentage that success rate, or is it low percentage of success rate?
I would say it's about mid,
Okay.
probably more toward the lower, but I really don't think about that.
What really matters?
What really matters is what they discover in treatment.
Okay. Just because it doesn't work this time doesn't mean it's not going to work next time.
Yeah.
So you think that maybe people can be like me and need to go around the block several times to learn the same answer
Could be.
and be able to connect to that answer?
Could
And
be. And you've got to be willing to want to look for the answers. Some people haven't come to that full willingness.
yeah, partial willingness. They're tired of what they've been experiencing, but they're still attached to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion, change is constant. We all have different struggles at different times. And hopefully we're all constantly not only changing but learning.
Yes. I've asked the question to several people, what makes you tick? What's your purpose? And a lot of people have a hard time with that. They don't have it right there at the tip of their tongue. Why am I alive? What kind of difference can having that answer on the tip of a person's tongue make for that person?
I think that's an answer we've got to come up with individually.
Yes, I agree. We all have to find our own purpose. If people find purpose, do you think that can help them move beyond what's holding them back?
Yes, if they choose to. Because some people have a harder time embracing their purpose.
Okay. Yeah. That's why we're here, to help people understand other people.
And you've got to be open to your purpose is changing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, just because you have this purpose and you've been equipped this way doesn't mean that you're not going to have another purpose that equipping can lead into. Life to me is a flow. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
For people to get connected to what their purpose is for now, and then when they grow into that, maybe they realize that the purpose is a little different, maybe a lot different than it was. Maybe somebody's purpose right now is to be an addict.
I don't know about that one. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one.
Okay. And why would you disagree with that?
Because the lifestyle of an addict is chasing the next fix. How do you find how do you find purpose in chasing something that's going to only give you temporary relief to the possibly permanent or problem that you're not willing to change?
To me, that person's purpose at that point is to hurt themselves.
I don't feel that humans purposely hurt themselves.
Really?
Because if I purposely wanted to hurt myself, I could take my blindness and justify becoming an addict, but I chose not to do that.
We've had some addicts here, ex-addicts, that were equipped through being an addict to help people not be an addict. So do you think that that purpose could be flipped like that, and that actually be what they need to go through?
I don't feel like you have to be an addict to help an addict, because I'm not one.
Never been one.
My father was one.
And that brings me back to a pastor's message one day. Said that they had asked the same question to two children of an alcoholic father. He was a raging alcoholic. They asked this question to the two children. One of them grew up and became an alcoholic. The other one grew up and was against alcoholism. So therefore, when they asked this question, why do you do what you do? They had the same answer. With a father like mine, what else would you expect?
I don't agree with that, because you're saying, with a father like mine, I chose to help.
That's what I'm talking about. One of them was a raging alcoholic as a dad,
But I'm
as a
not
grown
saying
up,
I'm
and the
not
other
saying I
one was
don't.
against it.
I'm not saying I don't have damage. I have a hard time, learning. I had a hard time learning what a healthy relationship was. Still struggle.
Yeah. Do you think that your fight against addiction could be that you were equipped as a child to help people not want to experience that in their lives?
I think so. I didn't fight with addiction.
No, I get it. No, you did, though, as a child. As a child, your dad was an addict, and you fought with that life experience, and you don't want anybody else to experience it.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay. So maybe you were equipped to love people differently than you would have been if you didn't experience that.
But I think my blindness also helps me to love.
Sure. No. I'm not trying to paint anybody in a corner of only having one reason to love people or being equipped to love people. But that's a good point. How does your blindness help you love people?
Because I choose to see beyond what's in front of me.
What does that mean?
I choose to see within the person.
And how do you do that?
By listening. And not just listening, but truly listening.
So, communication 101, ask a question, let the person answer it. Listen to them.
Not just listen to what they're saying, listen to the tone, listen to what's behind it.
Mm-hmm. Explain that to us.
I wish I had.
Please.
I wish I knew who wrote the hymn "Listen to Our Hearts," because that really explains it.
Okay. How does that hymn go? How does it explain it?
Well, in the hymn it says, "How do you describe a love that goes from east to west and runs as deep as it is wide? You, Lord, you know all our hopes, you know all our fears, and words cannot express the love we feel, but we long for you to hear. So listen to our hearts. Oh Lord, please listen. Hear our spirits sing a song of praise that flows, a simple song of praise. We will use the words we know to tell you what an awesome God you are. But words are not enough to tell you of our love, so listen to our heart."
So, wow. So
And
you
then,
think you should listen like they're praying through a song?
And then the song, "If That Isn't Love," it says, He left. Um, he left the streets of heaven, knowing his destiny. Um, I don't know the words, but basically what it's saying is he's coming to earth, and it says if that isn't love, um, the ocean is dry. There's no stars in the sky, and the sparrow can't fly. If that isn't love, heaven's a myth. There's no feeling like this. If that isn't love, even in death, he remembered the thief hanging there by his side. He spoke with love and compassion, and he took him to paradise. So Jesus saw beyond the thief. He saw, because the one thief rebuked him on the cross, and ridiculed him, but the other thief said, we are put here because of our crimes, but this man has done nothing. And he asked Jesus, have enough love for me that you will remember me in my kingdom. And Jesus said in response, in love, today you will be with me in paradise. I'm choosing through my blindness, and I'm not comparing myself to Jesus. I'm choosing through my blindness to see beyond the addiction and beyond a person's past. I'm choosing to see their potential. Because I tell my clients, no matter what your motive is, you made the choice. I don't care if you're court ordered or not. You could have continued in your active addiction, but you chose to come here. You chose to take advantage of the opportunity. You reached down within yourself and found the strength to come here.
And then you actively listen and you help guide them into their self deeper than what they possibly could by their self, loving them, listening to their words, listening to their tone. And maybe you can connect with people's tone and words better than people that can see.
I would say so. I mean, I can't guarantee that.
Yeah. Well, it's scientifically documented that people that have lost a sense have another sense pick up where that's been left off. And so you're impacting people's lives. If they want to be there or not, may it be court ordered, might it be self-check-in or whatever, but you have been given these people to help them by asking questions and listening to them and being sensitive. And with those songs that you've shared with us this morning, it shares that you want to have the heart that God wants to put in you to help people the way that He wants to help people. Thank you for coming today. It's been a blast. Hopefully people can apply this to their life where they're actively listening, meeting people where they are, and helping however they can. Maybe you're the person that needs to share with somebody because you're hurting. Find somebody that'll listen. Find somebody that is in a better place than you find yourself. Reach out. People want to help. Some people want to help. Some people want to hurt. Find that person that really wants to help you and start your process today. Thanks, Russell.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?